Gave everybody a bit of an intro, but is there anything you want to add to that? Aaron, Lily and James Creative, you started this business from scratch and built it up where now it's taking you really all over the country. You were one of those early adopters of LinkedIn and how folks could use that for business, and it's really springboarded you into a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, that's about it. I was in 2016. So I was always a single mom with 2 kids and no college degree, which meant I could get sales jobs because I was really good at sales, but not very many other jobs. And so I worked almost every kind of sales job you can think, everything from selling the dental treatments up front at the dental office. They gave me like a fancy title, but really I was a secretary who could talk people into root canals. So started there all the way to selling windows for Pella windows, which was by far my least favorite job ever, but it paid the best. And I always used, because I didn't have a degree very early on, like when I started trying to get a real job, so I mean not a bartending job, was 2006. So that's right when the internet figured out you could use algorithms to kick out resumes, which meant the minute I checked that I didn't have a degree, I could never even get past the computer. And so right when LinkedIn came out, I decided to jump on there. In fact, I just ran my LinkedIn number. You can see like what your member number is. There was something a couple months ago where people were running their numbers. Mine was like way early on. I didn't realize I was that quick to it, but I used LinkedIn to build relationships. And then I used social media for sales, which was something nobody was doing. So like when I was working at the dental office in 2006, 2007, I actually put the dental office on MySpace because we were near college. And so near UMKC. And so I was like, maybe we can get patients like this. She wanted me to figure out a way to get patients, and it worked. So then I went over to leasing and ended up, they had 13 properties in Kansas City, putting them all on when Facebook came, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And that helped fill them up so much that they started selling all their properties. And so my decision came, I kind of worked myself out of a job because they'd bought so many properties in Texas with their money from selling the properties in Kansas City that if I wanted to continue to do marketing and sales for them, I was going to have to move to Texas, and I couldn't do that. So then I ended up over at Pella Windows, and again, started a Facebook page, a Twitter, a YouTube, selling windows. And quickly all these boys that thought they knew everything about construction, I was beating them. And so that was fun. It was fun for me. So, and then I decided I was at Soul Cantina Bar. I like so vividly remember this, and I'm not good with memories. And I had a friend named Blake who was a chiropractor, and he's like, "You're really good at this social media thing. Can't I just pay you to do mine?" And I was like, who would pay you to do social media? And then I just couldn't get it out of my mind. So I went home to my terrible boyfriend at the time. And I was like, I think that people will pay me to do this. And I was like, I would like to start an agency. And like most of my boyfriends did, he told me I wasn't smart enough. And so then we ended up breaking up anyways. So what I decided to do is I was still fighting some of that insecurity. So I was like, I really don't know anything about an agency. Maybe if I learned that, I'd feel a little more confident in doing this. So I went and I sold for an agency with the full plan that I was going to start an agency. But when you have 2 kids by yourself, there's no extra money usually. And so I bought the URL, Lily and James Creative, but I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know when I was going to do it. And then this company called and they said, we're sitting in a random boardroom in LA and your name came up twice to work on this brand that we may or may not take digital. We don't know yet, but we'd like to have this conversation with you, but we do not want to work with your current agency. We just want Aaron Fulk doing this. And so that company was Nike. And when Nike calls, anything in marketing, you just drop whatever you're doing and you do it. And so I went and talked to my buddy Enrique down at T.O. Cali. If you have never had T.O. Cali, I suggest you get to go from it and support a local business. They are amazing. I said, I want to do this, but I'm scared. He goes, why don't you bartend here while you start it up so you'll have income, which bartending in a club when you're 21 and bartending in a Mexican restaurant when you're 32, 33 is not the same thing, just for the record. But it's so terrible. It's not terrible. I mean, it's kind of terrible. It's fun to drink at the Mexican restaurant, but I was able to quit that job in 4 weeks and be able to pay myself based off of having grown my LinkedIn following. So when I said I'm starting this agency, I had so many clients sign on right away that I was able to still work on the Nike deal, which ended up taking like 6 months and didn't go through anyways, but also really start my agency. And obviously a lot of you guys are business owners, you know, it's a lot of ups and downs the next 4 years, but it's led to some pretty exciting stuff. And now I travel nationally and speak about LinkedIn, and maybe internationally because I booked something in London in October. So we'll see if it happens.
Well, let's talk about what you're seeing in messaging around social media and marketing out of COVID. You know, people are trying to figure this out. I talked to a lot of businesses trying to figure out, and it's been pretty clunky early on. I see some people that are doing a good job on messaging and some people that would say aren't, but people have consumers, your potential customers, they have a thirst for knowledge right now of what your business is going to do, what's going to be like. What are you seeing?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I think that understanding that, where's Grant at? He loves data. So understanding the numbers, I'm not going to get Grant data level, but understanding the numbers is really important. So social media use has been up over 50% over the past few weeks since COVID happened. The biggest players in those is actually YouTube and TikTok, right? Not that I need you all to go jump on TikTok right now. But YouTube, I don't think that you should ignore. YouTube has been steadily climbing and Google owns YouTube. So I think that that's one that really is good to pay attention to in general. I was already stating this fact that was in a study last year. By the end of 2020, all experts in my field were saying 80% of content would be video on the internet, like that we were consuming. We shot that up really quick during COVID, right? People you'd never think would get on video were on video. We've all learned how to use our video on our iPhones. So I think that YouTube is actually going to continue to rise. TikTok depends on your brand. It depends on who you're trying to reach. Depends if you have a family that wants to do funny dances with you, whatever. So I'm not as concerned about that one. The actual only social media that declined in usage, and it's just now starting to go back up, but it was LinkedIn. The funny piece is that LinkedIn actually went down in numbers over the past few weeks. However, the quality of the people on there went up. Does that make sense? So the people that were at work, just not working and kind of going on LinkedIn to just look at other jobs and that kind of stuff went down, but like decision makers and all of them started using it more. So the numbers don't look good on LinkedIn. However, everybody I've talked to in the space, in my space and in other business space, have had a lot more success on LinkedIn over the past few weeks. So I think in general, understanding those numbers, you know, a lot of times when I go meet with business owners, sometimes it's really funny because a lot of them are really proud to tell me they just put their business on Facebook. And while I'm proud of them for that, because in agency world a few years ago, people were really proud to tell me they had a website. I think that unless your business is really for 60 plus, you need to be on Facebook, but that's not where you need to be spending all of your time. I think it really depends on your demographic, right? If you're under 35, under 40, or a product, Instagram's a good place. If you're in the B2C world, which even if you have products, you usually probably have a B2B side too. So if you're in the B2B world, I mean, not B2C, LinkedIn is a wonderful place. And then I think that sometimes using some of the ones we don't think about, like Reddit and Tumblr, just to gather some data and client opinions and reviews is really good too. And then Pinterest, you guys know that Pinterest is the third biggest search engine on the internet. So we've been putting a lot of our clients, especially if they're products, on Pinterest. And then we personally use Pinterest as a portfolio. And it gets, God, we barely ever touch our Pinterest, and it gets 3,000-4,000 views a month, which is very low for Pinterest, but that's still 3,000-4,000 views of eyes on our stuff. So I think understanding the numbers is the first piece. And then I think the second piece to messaging is, and I do a marketing show every week. And so I last week I felt like I was like a robot saying this. So I'm going to say it again. So if you've seen my show, sorry, but I think it's really important. It is not business as usual. So first of all, okay, so it's not business as usual. What do I mean by that? We're still doing business, but to act like nothing is happening is actually going to hurt you, rather than help you, right? So say you're a local business and you've been trying to play a bigger game, right? Because they've always told us, fake it till you make it. It's all about perception, da, 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 da. Well, Ernst & Young just had a study come out a couple weeks ago, and essentially what it said is 42% of people that have never really cared about working with local business are now going to hyperactively look to book local businesses, to use local businesses. So if you're a local business that's always played this bigger game, that's actually going to hurt you, right? People want, in that same study, there was all sorts of numbers, but in that same study, people want you to address what's going on. Now, they don't want you to address it like everyone else. Like, if I see anybody on this call say we're all in this together on any of their posts, I will write you a message, a not kind message. We get it, right? Every brand has said we're all in this together. Everybody's not all in this together. I am not in the same boat as Nike is right now, you know? And some of the kids I mentor that have been laid off are not in the same boat I'm in. So we're not all in this together. So first of all, it's been overused. It's done. Any messaging about working from home is done. We're overused. I saw somebody yesterday, like a bigger company, put out a webinar about working from home. If you haven't had a chance to go to a working from home webinar, well, we're going back. So you missed the boat. So understanding that the most authentic messages, I think, are what's going to work the very, very best for you. So a lot of times we overthink what people are going to think if we're vulnerable in our posts. If we say, my business is really having a hard time. In fact, I'll tell you an example, and he'll be fine with me using his example. Our vice president also owns 2 restaurants, right? And so he was working 80, 90 hours a week, and Wings Cafe are his restaurants, if anybody wants to support. He's working 80, 90 hours a week, literally just trying to keep his employees' jobs, right? He got lucky that he didn't have waitresses and waiters there. Everybody runs the cash register or something. But they had one that was pregnant, so she couldn't work. And then they had one that a family member was diagnosed with COVID, so they didn't want her in the restaurant, right? But he still wanted to be able to take care of them. So he was working those hours. And at the very first, nobody was ordering food, remember? Because we were all trying to figure out if restaurants were open or not. And I said, you need to get on he's got a huge social following. I said, you need to get on your social and you need to tell people what you're doing. And he's like, no, that feels weird. Because it does feel weird to him because he's always got it together. And he's always, this real put together guy, and graduated high school at 14. So he knows everything. So being vulnerable to him was super uncomfortable. And I said, can I just send you a message and you tweak it to your wording because you're way smarter and people know I wrote it. But essentially, please just test this. And if it totally sucks, you can just delete it. And essentially what it was just saying, listen, we're not doing as well as we were. Obviously, the restaurant world has changed. I want to save my employees' jobs, but I need to get some takeout orders. And if anybody's looking for something for dinner tonight, please do. They ended up having their best day in 2 years that day, right? But it took him being vulnerable, and it took him being so clearly transparent and authentic for that to happen. And they have just continued since that one message on his social went out. And so understanding that people, I don't want you guys to say we're all in this together. Everybody's going through something right now. It's the first time ever everybody's been going through something, right? And so talking about what you're going through is actually a good thing right now because it makes people see you as human. And a lot of brands it could help them to be seen as human.
How, I agree with you that ignoring it or not addressing it is inappropriate right now. You have potential customers, potential employees that I know what I do. I go to Google and Google people's sites, go to their websites, go to social media, see what their business is doing, what their hours are. But how do you keep it from going over the top and scaring people or being offensive? There's like some kind of balance. I've had a few places where I go look at their site and it starts telling me all these mandatory rules I got to follow. And I'm kind of like, okay, I really don't want to do that. I think I just won't go there. So how do you get that right balance of addressing it, but not scaring people to death?
Well, I don't think people need to know the rules till they show up. right? So a simple message, if you feel like you need to put messaging out about we are going to follow the city's ordinances, is enough. I do want to say something with that. But then if you follow that rule, I was on a show the other night with a guy that owns the daiquiri shop in Kansas City. I haven't been there yet, but apparently they serve Cajun food and you can get daiquiris to go eat, like, so I'm going. But one of the things he was talking with, he had kind of an issue as far as messaging goes, if you're in this space, where they're doing the 6 feet in the line. So the line looks really, really long. So they were actually put out a big sandwich board that said about how long it would take to get through the line. So people didn't have to make that up in their head, which I thought was really important. Total side note, but that just seemed genius to me. So essentially, I think that it is probably a finer line here than we've ever had before, right? Because you want to get back to business as normal. And a really good thing to remember is that people need your services. They do need, not everybody probably needs your services. Maybe not as many people need your services, but there are businesses booming, guys. There are, like, we're not booming, but I hired 2 people yesterday, right? That's the stuff that the media is not telling us about. And wherever we sit on the media, that's fine. But there are a lot of stories that I'm hearing where we're not hearing all of those stories. So yes, there are a lot of sad stories, but there's also a lot of people looking for your services. So remembering that you don't have to be doom and gloom is really important to Randy's point. Understanding that maybe just not going so hard on your messaging, but saying, this is what I have. This is my product. This is my service. You know, I always say social media should be a 70-30% rule anyway, 70% about your industry, your thought leadership, stuff like that. And only 30% about what you actually sell or what you actually do, right? And then that way, sorry, I'm gonna try it. Randy, you handle chat and I'll stay out of it. Otherwise I'll be like real out of place. But I think when it comes to, like, to Randy's exact question, when it comes to city, I think saying we're following city ordinances is enough. You know, you get into what's become really funny about this is we've always been told to stay away from politics and religion in business. And now it's like, all of a sudden, whether you're opening your office or not has become a political statement, right? And so again, remember, stay away from politics and religion. So just saying we're following the city ordinances, nobody can be mad at you about that, but that's probably enough. And then tell them the rules when they get there. I've got a sign-in book. People are going to have to sign in, and we got it branded and all of that.
What if they're they're going beyond the city ordinance? So say the city says it's okay for them to open, but they're opting not to. So what do they do in that instance?
Then I would just say, instead of saying we're opting not to, I would say this is how you reach us. And, you know, you could even do a play like, for our employee safety, we're going to stay closed through the end of May, which is what we're doing. I'm making it optional to go back on the 15th. And then I'm saying that it's mandatory on the 1st. Don't tell my employees, but this virtual thing's really working out for some of them. So we might make it more optional. Just don't tell them. So I would do the messaging around the positive piece, right? Not like, hey, we're not following the city's rules. Instead, I would say, hey, for our employee safety, we're going to stay working home till June 1. If you need our services, this is the best way to get a hold of us.
Nice.
And I don't know how many of y'all have checked your Google listing lately, but they're making it super easy to change your hours and your phone number, and it's going through approval pretty quickly on there.
That's good.
You know, most businesses now are facing at least some level of spending crunch, and historically one of the first things to go is advertising and marketing. So the time where people are wanting more information, the inclination is to cut that first and do less. But the reality is people's revenues are down, their profits are down. They are having to be judicious with how they spend their money, whether they're a business or an organization. What do you think are the most cost-effective ways for folks to address these communication needs without blowing the bank?
First of all, I want to tell you a little story about 2 cereal companies called Post and Kellogg's. So up till I think it was 1920. I'm like a little intimidated because there's some history buffs on here, but I think the year was 1920 with the last pandemic and then the the economy crisis, Post was the cereal company. Everybody knew Post. Everybody ate Post. And then with the economy going down, Post actually cut down to like 10% of their marketing money. Kellogg's, who was a new company, actually increased theirs by like something crazy, a couple 100% or something like that. To this day, Kellogg's is number one in that category, right? Now, every marketing person in the world right now is going to tell you, increase your marketing dollars. This is the time. And if it makes sense, I think that there are certain things. Facebook ads are crazy cheap right now. They're going up every day in the past 2 weeks, but they're still cheaper than they've ever been. I talked the Business Journal into doing an ad. I don't know if you guys have ever negotiated with the Business Journal, but they usually don't budge. They did an ad over half price for me. And then I've been watching in that same ad spot. They've just been doing their own stuff. So I guarantee they would negotiate for someone else. And so what's good about having the money right now is you can probably get stuff at a better rate, right? And it's not going to, if you have the money, then it's not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. However, I understand, I've taken this kind of different stance as a marketing person that absolutely, there's a lot of things that have to get cut, especially if you're trying to decide between feeding your children and keeping your business open, keeping your employees, or paying the electricity. A lot of times marketing is going to be the one to get cut. Every marketing guru is going to tell you don't do it. I do agree with that, but reality says it's a line that you can still do a lot of running your business, right? You've got to pay your rent or you have nowhere to run your business at. You've got to pay your electricity or you can't plug your computer in. So then marketing does become one of those lines that you have to cut. I think if anything, we're living in a better time than ever because social media, you can do. You might not do it well yet, but you can do it, right? And it is not going to cost you $1 to go and post organically. Right now, like in current state of affairs, and I think it's only going on for maybe another week, but almost every marketing tool out there, so Digital Marketer, it's a place where a lot of people in digital marketing have their new employees go and get certificates, learn the nitty-gritty pieces of digital marketing. They've been doing all their courses for the past month and a half for free. Usually they're hundreds of dollars. LinkedIn Learning, there's a whole back end back there that they've been letting for free. Canva's been letting you use their pro tool for free. So right now, there's so many resources out there. I don't think anybody's ever seen anything like this where so many of these courses, it kind of somewhere in the past, like somewhere mid-March, somebody did it for free and then you became the jerk in course world if you were charging for your courses. Like the people that are making a ton of money where the courses are pretty much up there and they're just running themselves, right? So everything started coming. I mean, to be really honest, I'm at Harvard right now because I'm taking a free course about public speaking at Harvard, right? Even Harvard, Yale, all these places did free courses. So I think that if you absolutely have to cut your marketing dollars, that you probably can find an hour in your time to use to learn some of this on your own. And there's never been a better time than to do it.
Hey, Aaron, I'm sorry I have to jump on into another meeting, but so say we wanted to get better because engagement on LinkedIn is like totally different from Facebook and other mediums. If we wanted to get better and understand like the fundamentals of how to do that, where might we go? And then I'll jump off. Thank you.
So LinkedIn Learning has a lot of good things. And I'm also currently, did he jump off before I said this? I'm also currently working on a course for Grant Gooding that I'm going to be offering. He jumped off before I even finished. But LinkedIn Learning right now has some really good ones too. And here's the other thing. If you're like this, I'm kind of like this, where watch what other people are doing. Now be yourself. A lot of people are doing a lot of the research for you. And then ask questions, right? Here's my number one LinkedIn trick. People usually pay me a lot of money just to say this one silly thing. Are you ready? Ask a question at the end of your LinkedIn post and watch how much engagement you get. Ask for people's opinions and look and see how many people are ready to give you their opinion. Today, I already commented on this guy. I don't know who he is. I feel like when he tagged me on it, like maybe we've met. So if you know him, don't tell him this, but he asked a couple of us what we thought the best profile picture was to use. And I commented, and now my phone hasn't stopped because so many people that he didn't tag and ask are giving their opinion, right? So that's a phenomenal way to get engagement.
Aaron, this is Nick. Same line of questioning. I've been, for about the past 30 days, using Facebook with posts and pictures, using naming conventions, apparently matched to my keywords when people do Google searches. And I'm posting on Google Business. What types of pictures, and are the types of pictures different on those two formats?
Google My Business is a funny one because sometimes they prioritize it and sometimes they don't. I feel like for the past couple of years, they haven't been prioritizing it, but I felt like during this, they have been prioritizing it because I've been getting a lot of notifications because I run quite a few Google accounts. Are you using LinkedIn?
No, I'm on it, but I don't use it at all.
So I think that you need to worry about using LinkedIn before you worry about using pictures on those two places, just because I know what your business is because we talked about it beforehand. And I think that the decision makers in your industry are on LinkedIn. So I think you do them all, but I think that LinkedIn's going to be killer for you.
Okay, thank you.
But to answer your question, so I'm not a total jerk. Here's the deal. I always say any picture's fine. There's better quality pictures than others. But if you cannot, like if you put a bunch of words on that picture and you can't read it easily on your phone, don't use the picture at all. Because phones get littler and bigger, but if you can, the littlest phone, if you can't read that, a lot of times people try to put a really stellar quote on a picture, but it'll be so long. And you're like, nobody reads that. It's too long. It would be much better to put it kind of spaced out in the content piece and put a picture that just caught your eye.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully that helps. Get on LinkedIn. Add me.
Aaron, I've got a couple questions based around LinkedIn. So you said a lot of use on LinkedIn is dropping right now. So first question is, are you paying for advertising on LinkedIn in that scenario? And the other question is, between your business LinkedIn account and your personal LinkedIn account, which is more important to continue posting on, coming from, commenting, asking those questions? How do you decipher between the two?
Right. So currently we are not running ads for anybody on LinkedIn. LinkedIn did not drop their pricing at all on their ads, and LinkedIn ad spend is always very high anyways. The other piece is that LinkedIn organic is so crazy high that unless you have a very specific product or specific service or course or something, we don't always run ads on it because we can get pretty stellar results organically, right? I will say though, if you're going to run LinkedIn ads, the worst kind of ad to run on LinkedIn, weirdly, is a video. So they are prioritizing video for other things, but on their ad, it costs a lot of money. It's the worst kind of ad. So I will put that out there. But as far when it comes to my personal versus my company LinkedIn, so I have a very big brand personally on LinkedIn. And then my company has like a decent size for like as little as like, I think we've got like 1,500 people or something on our company LinkedIn page. I keep them as separate brands, but I do post on each of them. I post on my personal daily, and then I post on the company 3 to 4 times a week, but it's company-wide. So on our company one, we post marketing tips, we post funny rapper quotes that are motivational. You'd be surprised how many rapper quotes are motivational. We post Kansas City stuff, really make ourselves a thought leader in there. On my personal one, it's the Aaron Fulk show. Like it really is. It's more about my live show that I do. It's more about like entrepreneurial stuff. There's marketing stuff as well, but it's more Aaron Fulk stuff, more my public speaking stuff. So I kind of use them as 2 separate. And then this is what I do for a lot of clients. You'll see me once or twice a month share my company post. If it's something that will still also match the Aaron Fulk brand, I'll share that post to my personal one and still give a little commentary on it just to help grow my company page. And to keep the idea that I have a company. Does that help?
Aaron, I got a quick question. So I guess all LinkedIn engagement is good, but in our business, like everybody on this call probably buys a sandwich or a taco at some point, but I don't think everybody on this call buys a cooling tower or a pump. It's a little more pointed audience. So how do we drive our engagement towards our specific customer base and our market sector? Through hashtags, is there a way to identify what the best hashtags are? Are there other ways to drive it to our specific customer base versus just broad engagement? Which I don't mind broad engagement, but we want to make sure that we're reaching our customer base as well.
Right. So this is my favorite question because everybody in the trades, including my husband, always says LinkedIn's not for me. And then I tell them the story of Roger Wakefield. So go follow this guy, Roger Wakefield. He's a buddy of mine in Dallas. So Roger Wakefield was always a plumber his whole life. And then somehow Roger Wakefield found himself, I don't know why this part of the story happened. Somehow Roger Wakefield found himself at Social Media Marketing World in San Diego for one of their conferences. I don't know how that happened. That would be an interesting part of the story probably. But Roger Wakefield learned about video. Roger Wakefield went back in all his plumbing glory and said, I'm going to start doing video. And he made himself a YouTube channel and he made himself a LinkedIn account. And Roger Wakefield started doing thought leadership videos to people that did not know plumbing. So how to fix this, how to do that. And then he was like, what would happen if I started doing plumbing videos to plumbers? So then he tried that because people weren't interested in doing plumbing because they weren't plumbers, right? So I don't want to watch a plumbing video, promise you. So Roger Wakefield started doing videos to plumbers. And very quickly, Roger Wakefield started growing as this video phenomenon of the thought leader of all plumbers. And now he owns a company that is just a company to assist plumbers, which is 10 times the size. He spoke at VidCon last year. Because VidCon, like where the video game and the video and the YouTube stars go, Roger Wakefield was on stage. He spoke at Social Media Marketing World this year because he became the all thought leader. But you better know that every time someone needs a plumber, they hit up Roger Wakefield still thinking he does plumbing. But he's like, I don't do that anymore. And let me give you to this person. And then he gets the referral there and he's making 10 times the amount of money. And a huge part of that was LinkedIn because he became the know-all. And I think he did a good job with YouTube and LinkedIn, right? But he became the know-all of plumbing. I think that any trade could do that because the only person to this day that I see in the trades really hitting up LinkedIn is Roger Wakefield. I think in any industry, it's easy to say this won't work, that won't work, right? Because we're in our industry all day and nobody's been doing it. But it's not bad to be the first one doing it. It really isn't, right? When I put the dental office on MySpace, they were like, this girl's crazy, but we gave her a shot, right? It's $10 an hour. We're not going to lose too much. All of a sudden we started growing and they were like, wait, what? And I was like, nobody else is doing it. And I know the minute I went to college, I didn't know where to go to the dentist.
Aaron, I would like to ask a question as well. Mortgage industry, and on Instagram, a lot of times I'll see sharing of other people's posts. Do you believe in the sharing of other people's posts or strictly sticking with your own content or a combination of?
Yeah, I think if you share anybody's post, you should give them credit. What I see happen a lot of times is we'll share, specifically on Instagram, we'll share to our stories and then they'll reshare my share. So now I didn't share originally their stuff. I shared it because it was good, but now my logo's made it onto their page. Here's what I want to challenge you on mortgage in the Instagram industry. So everybody I know that does mortgages and real estate, that does them, not that's looking, but that does them, is on Instagram. Everybody. I see very few on LinkedIn, and I didn't come on here just to preach LinkedIn, but it just happens that those are the answers I keep coming up with, right? What I know is I'm currently looking to buy a house. Well, I'm like flirting with the idea because our house is really small during pandemic. It was never on the table before pandemic. It's very small. I haven't gone to Instagram once to figure out which house I'm going to get. And I found myself that I don't follow any real estate people or mortgage people. You know what? if I see a lot of content though on LinkedIn, because we have mutual people and that's not something I ever see on LinkedIn, I would have probably reached out to somebody by now to ask questions. I actually was on a happy hour the other day and I was like, I don't even know where to start with mortgages. And this random girl in the happy hour was like, my husband does it. And that's who I started talking to, right? But then to your point, I'm like, yes, every real estate person is on Instagram. And I think that was probably an awesome thing 5 years ago. And I think you should be there, but I think you should also be other places. Yeah, I think, so I have some friends that have pretty high jobs and they use Twitter for sports. Some of them even have secret Twitter accounts just to look at sports. But LinkedIn is the one place. So LinkedIn users make $75,000 or more, which is a way higher number than any other social media. That is the decision maker place. Yes.
But how do you get people to engage with you? How do you get them to want to connect to you? Do you go out and start connecting to them? What's that process look like?
Yeah, so I think that you connect to the people you know, because weirdly they all show up right away, just like any social media, all the algorithms. And then LinkedIn suggests for you to connect with people. And then more importantly than just going out and connecting with a bunch of people, you start commenting and engaging on other people's posts. So say you and Mitch is right here in the middle, so I keep making up, plus I know you. Say you and Mitch are connected. I know Mitch posts a lot. And so you comment on his stuff and you'll be surprised at how many people now want to connect with you as well. And I will tell you that it may feel like a lot of insurance people are there. I have a friend that just started an insurance agency in Kansas City. And I forced her, of course, because she's one of my best friends, to get on LinkedIn. She's gotten a ton of business from LinkedIn because there's not that many people out there on LinkedIn in your space.
Okay. Or maybe it's just they have it like me. They have it, but they're not engaging on there.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
You know, so here's the deal. I get a lot of engagement. I want to make this really clear to you guys. I get a ton of engagement. And I'm in marketing. And do you know who is doing LinkedIn the very, 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 very best? Is marketers. So out of all of you guys in all of your industry, I have the most competition on LinkedIn and I'm killing it because marketers ruin everything. We go 10 times on everything, right? So all of you guys who are not marketers actually have a lot bigger playing field on LinkedIn than I do. And you could be killing it way bigger than me. So just do it.
How you have a ton of connections on LinkedIn. How connected are you? I mean, personally, those people, like I know that LinkedIn or any social media, you can kind of have friends or likes or whatever without really knowing those people. Have you connected either face-to-face, in person or online with a lot of those people?
Right. So I have like 20,000 on LinkedIn. So
Okay.
Obviously they're not all my best friends.
Okay.
But here's how I look at LinkedIn versus Facebook, right? Because Facebook, I'm a little bit, I'm more selective.
Private. Sure.
Because Facebook's where I put my kid. Facebook's where I tell people we're going on vacation. Facebook's all of my personal stuff, right? LinkedIn, I look at more like a chamber event, right? It's a networking site. That's where I meet people I'm going to work with. And sometimes I walk into a chamber event, a lot of times at the same time of the morning. I'm always like up trying to get, they're always like 8:30. I walk in and there's a few people I kind of know, so I wave, but then I like start to meet more people that next time I'll probably wave at them. And I start to know the faces, but not so much all like, there's just a few of them I get to introduce. So that's kind of how I look at LinkedIn. Here's the thing about LinkedIn is that with the 20,000 connections, again, a psychology thing, but I can pretty much go out and almost connect with anybody and they accept it because I have 20,000 connections, right? So I have an easier time getting in front of the people I really want to know because I've built up this army of people over here, right?
Yeah.
I also have a lot of people. So if I have 20,000 connections and I post something and it gets 10 comments, that's a tiny percentage of engagement. However, that's just hit all 10 of their news feeds as well. So I've just expanded my reach. There is something to your reach that plays a huge, huge part in business. It's just a mindset thing. There's people that it only takes one person, usually one deal, to make a big difference in your business, right? And it's just like how Nike saw me. Nike had no business looking at a single mom with 2 kids in Kansas. but two different people saw me in news feeds. And when they both saw that they saw me, they were like, this girl knows what she's doing, right? And so I don't think you need to know them all. I always say, and I'm not going to get into an argument with anyone over this because this is always a hot topic. I connect with anybody that looks like they're legit, like we could legitimately do business at some point.
So my question is, I feel like I spend a fair amount of time on social media, but when I'm doing it for the business, my intent is to figure out ways to drive that traffic to our site. Is that right? Or should I just play in the pond where the people already are?
Well, you're going to have better luck playing in the pond where people are because they didn't get on LinkedIn to go to your site, right?
Correct. Yeah. But
and the other thing is,
there and put content on LinkedIn or links to blogs to drive them from LinkedIn to the website to read the blogs.
I think that you should do half the blogs on LinkedIn and half the blogs as articles on your personal one. Because here's the thing, when you so think about how LinkedIn makes money, right? LinkedIn makes money by going to their advertisers and saying, we have this many people on our platform every day. Well, if every time that somebody puts a link in away from their platform, they were to prioritize that post, they would only have half the users, right? Say half the users did that and they encourage everyone. So every time you put a link in your post, it actually, the algorithms don't show it as much because you're encouraging people to leave LinkedIn. So I think that you can do that half the time if you want to, but I wouldn't do that all the time. I would still write articles on LinkedIn. Articles on LinkedIn right now are being a little weird. They've hidden them to test out this feature part, but I've been posting them for clients a lot and they've been getting higher engagement. So I think they are getting higher engagement. They're just not accessible on the newsfeed or on the profile. But I think that do as few links outside of LinkedIn as you can.
So but looking at your profile right now, I'm looking at it on the screen. How do I know how many connections you have?
Well, mine defaults to followers now. So just go down a little bit right above articles and activities. It says 19,400.
Okay.
Like 100 less than Chase Kaufman.
I got you. And the other thing is, I started using LinkedIn in 2010 after I had spoken with a friend of mine who was an executive recruiter. This was in 07, and that she was using LinkedIn to, basically to find candidates. And at the time I was like, you don't seriously use a website to find people to fill, senior executive positions. She's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of scoffed for a while, but again, as obviously it's really taken off. What do you think has driven the focus of LinkedIn from being a place to find a job or find job candidates primarily to now being a place to be able to network and drive business? What do you think is?
Well, Microsoft bought it a few years ago and had different goals, right? And it wasn't profitable when Microsoft bought it. And to run a business, you have to have profit. So they've added quite a few features like video, the lives. They've really upped the content piece of prioritizing content. So I think a big piece of that is just Microsoft wanting to make it profitable, and they've made it profitable. Here's the deal. I don't even carry business cards anymore. There's these 4 little squares right here on the mobile app. Whenever I'm in person with you, I go to these 4 squares. Hold on, now my phone decided. I prioritize my computer. So I go to these 4 squares and then there's a scanner and there's a code. I always just tell people, hey, pull up your code. I teach them how to do this. Then I just scan and connect with them right there. Because usually what I do with Andy Rieger taught me that every business card costs 8 cents. Because I dropped his one time in front of him. And I didn't mean to. But what I do with those cards is I usually stuff them at the bottom of my purse and I never look at them again, right? Or they go in my wallet or something like that. They don't really make it anywhere. However, if I connect with them on LinkedIn, then I get to see their content. And more importantly, they get to start seeing my content and I stay top of mind, right? So then they're like, oh yeah, I met that girl before. Oh yeah, I need marketing. That's who I should talk to. So I would suggest connecting with everyone just like Chase did. Good job, Chase. Chase and I are going on the road together.
Well, appreciate it, Aaron. This was
Yeah.
great. I learned a lot.
Connect with me on LinkedIn.